So welcome to the next episode of Interviewing the Experts. Today I am very pleased to be joined by Jessica Wolf. So a quick intro on me. So my name is Joel Kirkland, for those who don't know. I'm Managing Director of Focus on Workday. I lead a global team of 17 dedicated Workday recruiters, half of which are focusing on the North American market. Jessica, take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Joel. I'm so happy to be here talking to you today. So I've been in the ecosystem for about 10 years now. I actually have a unique background. I started out as an absence consultant, and then I became an engagement manager. I've done solutioning and sales and offering development. I've been a program manager, and I have done alliances. I've done just about everything there is to do within the Workday ecosystem. I currently have my own company called The Mentor Mission, and the purpose of the Mentor Mission is to give people a place for them to know they're not alone with how they're feeling. So I've found that a lot of times, even if you find a mentor internally, they might be friends with your manager, and you don't necessarily know if you can be entirely transparent with them or not. So it's nice to know that things that you're feeling, other people are feeling as well, and just have a place to go and talk to someone.
Gotcha. Okay, great intro. Very interesting. So let's start on the hiring side of the fence. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. So look, if we go back in time, a little bit of trip down memory lane, we actually have the pleasure of working together. So let's talk a bit about that first. So as a hiring manager then, what are your top tips for getting great talent on board?
So it's very important to know the type of person that you're looking to hire. So maybe you need an absence consultant with management experience. Maybe you don't want someone with management experience. Maybe if you're working at a smaller company, you need someone that can do a lot of variety within their skill set. Maybe they need to also have time tracking and payroll in addition to absence or other functional areas. Or maybe you need someone who's very specialized in what they do and extremely vertical. So even within a specific area, there's different skills that are needed in order to do that specific role. So you want to make sure that they're going to be the right fit for that role, as well as the right fit for your team, because you want to make sure that they fit in personality-wise as well.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. All right. So obviously, as I said, we worked together and it went pretty well. So why do you think we were successful?
Honestly, at the time, you weren't the only staffing partner that you worked with, but you gave us the best people. So we continued to work with you and maintain that relationship. The reason it was the best was because you took the time to understand what we were looking for. On our end, we took the time to really know the type of person that we were looking for. And I maintained a team internally of first level interviewers as well as the hiring managers, and met either weekly or bi-weekly or twice a week in order to move quickly in terms of being able to give you decisions on where we were in terms of making the decision, meeting the person based on our project pipeline, and just being in sync with each other in what we needed to be doing.
Yeah, I think so. From my perspective, it was quite seamless. It's not always like that. So we always talk to customers and we always advise that they kind of allow us to give great advice. And I think what happened when we worked together is that you were able to let us propose people who not always on paper looked exactly what you were looking for, but we'd done the due diligence and we knew the market and we know the market really well. So we would propose those people for a reason, thinking they would be a great fit. And that didn't slow down the process. So we didn't get those bottlenecks of you kind of reviewing CVs for weeks and weeks and weeks. We could move people through the process quickly. And then I also feel like you had a really clear proposition and really understood what you needed to do in terms of comp levels, in terms of making an exciting role, in terms of unblocking the kind of the issues around things like home working, flexibility, PTO, all of those small things that matter when it comes to the end of the process. I felt like you guys had thought about already. So when it came to actually agreeing those things at the end of the process, it was really good. We had a very good success ratio, and we were able to kind of build the team really, really quickly. Quite a scalable team, actually. So it's something that the team still talk about internally, focus. So you obviously left a bit of a mark on us, but it was a really good partnership, actually, and it felt like it was that it was a partnership. We were working. You said the word in sync. Internally, and that's how it felt with us as an external support to you. So yeah, fond memories. You started to answer the next question that I was going to ask you around the preparation that you did internally to kind of get to this place. So tell us about the planning, the prep, specifically around kind of that proposition side of things, making sure that you were ready to hire, making sure that you had something to offer, making sure that the USP for either the role or the company was in place so that you could attract people, because it was a really, really hot market and it was very, very difficult actually to hire at that time.
Yeah, so we did a lot of discussions internally around the type of person that we wanted to have on the team. We were very close knit, I would say around 50 to 60 people internally at the time in the US. And I was doing sales activities at the time and partnering with our delivery team in order to do the hiring. So we worked very closely to talk about the opportunities that were upcoming and making sure that the timing worked as well from a delivery standpoint. So we really knew our internal team very well, where their skills were, the type of person that we needed to have. We just were very self-aware of who we were and who we needed.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay, so that was a little bit of a blast from the past. Let's look forward. Well, let's look at the present. So very, very interesting market conditions right now. So give us your take on the current Workday market, Jessica.
The current Workday market is very competitive at this point, not just for job seekers, for hiring managers as well, I believe. There are a lot of candidates out there, a lot of great candidates. I got to say, people with 10 or more years of experience are all looking for a new opportunity. And what I've been seeing in talking to other people as well about this is that there's not a lot of senior level roles out there. I believe that companies are hiring within for those skills, and they've really built their internal teams to be able to fill those. So the senior level people on the market, a lot of them are turning to independent work, or they're lowering what they're asking for in order to be able to find something.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So you've been through some informal hiring processes as part of your journey. We'll sort of dig into this. Give us your take on it.
So it's been a lot of great conversations. I've gotten to know a lot of the new emerging partners within the ecosystem, and it's great that Workday has opened up to more partners. That's allowed for a lot of opportunities that didn't exist before, especially for these higher level leadership roles that need to be a utility player. So it's created a lot of opportunity, but the internal team is also having to wear a lot of hats. And I've found that maybe they're all competing for the same RFPs. I don't know that 100%, but I'm assuming that's probably the case. And therefore, when it comes to thinking about the budget, then they might be talking to you thinking, oh, we're hoping that we're going to win this, but maybe it's going to take some time. We'll have these conversations and see how things play out. But in reality, they get busy and they end up ghosting you. And it kind of hurts the relationship a little bit, but you don't want to burn any bridges at the same time.
Yeah, I can empathise with that. That's the ghosting. That's an interesting word. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit earlier about the difficulties or the challenges, I should say, for finding a role if you're a senior person in the ecosystem. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because there's a lot of competitiveness for the same opportunities.
Yeah.
Not just for skills and talent, but also for the projects that are being done. So when it comes to needing to be competitive to win those opportunities, they're probably having to make concessions from a pricing standpoint and going with bringing in a lower skill set that is not needing that type of higher level role. They can't afford the higher level role.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. I think it's a bit of a funnel, right? So, at a functional level, functional consultant level, a functional analyst, there are quite a lot of jobs still, and continue to be so, both permanent and contract. And we'll get into the independent versus permanent shortly. But as you become more senior, there's just less opportunities. And then if you fold on top of that the kind of climate that we've been through over the last 18 months, which is from a macroeconomic perspective, low confidence, low growth, pressure on budgets, pressure on everybody, it's like the perfect storm. It means that it's quite difficult to get a great opportunity. It means the senior jobs just kind of aren't out there in the same quantity that they were in the past. You mentioned competition, and there are other factors as well. A lot of the consulting organisations have become very lean and are using staff org, and that kind of plays into the wider customer market too. So I think there's just all these factors right now which make it a competitive landscape if you've got experience, especially if you're looking for a leadership role or even an exec level role. There just aren't quite the volume of opportunities. So it's super competitive, and I think you have to double down on standing out from the crowd. I think I think there's no alternative to that right now, just because of the level of competition.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So let's talk about independent contracting or consulting roles. You mentioned that they're more prevalent right now. What's your view on contracting versus permanent?
So for contractors, a lot of the partners are relying on contractors, which is something we saw a little bit of in the past, but now it's becoming a primary way that a lot of partners are operating, is to fill these niche skill sets with contractors, because maybe there's a project today, but not a project tomorrow for them because it's a niche skill set. So there's a lot of independent contractors that are out there on the market, and they're navigating which staffing partners to work with. I'm hearing that there's not a lot of direct client work. It seems like clients are using a lot of staffing partners right now, which is great for someone such as yourself, who's a staffing partner. But from a contractor standpoint, it's a matter of who do you trust in order to represent you effectively. And that's one reason why I appreciate Focus Cloud so much, because I have built that trust with you. And from an independent market, there is still a lot of opportunity, and it's a great way to control what your rate is going to be. You can ask for what you want to be paid. You can control your schedule and take on as much or as little work as you want. You just have to be able to be comfortable dealing with your own taxes and finding your own benefits, especially, I'm not sure how familiar you are with things in the US, but finding benefits in the US is a challenging situation. So it's it's definitely a give and take on what your comfort level is. A lot of people don't like having to find their next opportunity and wondering what's going to happen when their current project ends. So some people are more comfortable with a little lack of stability than others.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely, there's an element of uncertainty. There can be gaps between contracts, projects. That doesn't suit everybody. But at the moment, there's a good level of demand, and yeah, contracting is a really good option if you can kind of handle all that stuff that you said around tax and downtime, etc., etc. So flipping it across then to permanent, let's talk about finding a great permanent opportunity. Tell us a bit more about how you would decide on the right employer for a permanent role.
So deciding on the right employer comes down to number one, what are your core values and do they align with that? Do you want to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? Do you want to be able to wear multiple hats and gain a lot of experience trying out different things and being comfortable with failure? Or do you want to have more stability and more processes and be able to feel a little bit more stable within your current role? So understanding the type of environment that you're looking for, like we talked about earlier with finding the right role, do you want to have experience managing people or do you want to be an individual contributor? Do you want to be able to get experience in new modules in different areas of Workday, or do you want to be an expert within your current field? All of these are different things to take into consideration.
Gotcha. Okay. So I feel like there was a time where permanent was you could kind of build this huge wish list, get a permanent role. Employers would not bend over backwards, but do everything they possibly could to attract you. I think the reality of current conditions and current market is that you have to be a bit more flexible. So things like going into the office, we've had this period since COVID where remote working has been the order of the day, and as going back to the office and the benefits of collaboration and face-to-face are kind of being seen by some organizations and being wanted by the organizations to fill up their offices again, that means that you have to be more flexible. It's it's just the times have moved on. We've all benefited from being 100% flexible and 100% remote, and being able to be all over the world and work and all this stuff. And I think the reality of today's market is that for some roles, which is now becoming the majority rather than the opposite way around, there is some office time expected, which means travel, commuting, it's almost like something that was unheard of a few years ago. We just didn't have to think about those things. So my take on entering the permanent market or moving job is just think about what you can tolerate and think about what you can't tolerate, because some of the best jobs do come with some conditions. The pay is fair, pay rates are solid, they've held steady, but they're not going up like they were back when we were working together, for example. So I think, and that's an adjustment for some job seekers who have been used to different market conditions and a different environment. And as the ecosystem matures, things have settled down a bit. So there's just like I was talking about our growth numbers the other day and Workday's growth numbers, just like they've settled, they're still really strong. We're still looking at sort of 15, 20% growth, but it's not the crazy times where things are going up like a hockey stick and you can write your own job spec, you can command whatever pay you want, and you can work wherever you want in the world. I think the reality of today's market is that there are some conditions that come with these roles. So I would urge people who are looking for a role to think about, how much flexibility can they show and how attractive can they make themselves to employers, because a lot of the employers now are expecting certain things that they just weren't expecting before.
I think part of that too is the shift to a focus in higher education, government, and healthcare.
Sure.
And those industries want you to be more in person a lot of the time. So even if you're not going on site, you might have to travel more than you were used to doing more recently.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. So, final thoughts. Let's start where we started, which was hiring. Um, quick summary: hiring into the market is a bit different market conditions, but what are your tips for success?
Know who you are, know what you want, and know what you're willing to compromise on. Definitely you're interviewing, especially your manager, as much as they're interviewing you, because your manager, I've read several things that say they control your mental health more than your doctor does. So it's important to make sure that you're going to have a positive working relationship and it's going to be a great environment once you get into it.
Okay. Yeah, excellent. All right. And then in terms of the market and looking for a job, tell us about your ultimate take on it now and any strategies or ideas you've got about navigating what is quite a tricky space right now.
So it's a lot about networking and making sure that people know what you're looking for. Knowing how they can help you is very important. I've had conversations with people that say, I want to help, but I don't know what you need from me right now. And so it's important to tell them if you're just looking to talk and vent about what you're going through, or if you need them to make connections to someone else or help you find what that role is going to be. But make sure that people know how they can help you. I also really emphasize being visible in the marketplace. That's something that I've been working on myself, is posting a lot on avenues such as LinkedIn and making sure that people know who I am and what I can do. So it's important to make sure that people know what you can bring to the table.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think you've just got to put yourself out there and really be clear about what you bring to the table. I think yeah, the more attention you can bring and the more you can share kind of your authentic self, the easier it is for people to get a read and an understanding about your capabilities, maybe outside of like the traditional job interview. So I think that's a really good approach, like you say, about posting on LinkedIn, etc., and sharing knowledge and sharing thoughts, or being a support network through the mentor mission, like we've been talking about. But look, I think the good news is market's still in growth mode. Um, things have changed. There's more partners. There's the ecosystem is growing and it's wider, and that does make it a bit trickier to navigate as well and get your head around as it continues to expand. But ultimately, whether you're hiring or whether you're looking for a role, I think there are some key things that you can do, and we've discussed most of them today, that will set you up for success. So, Jessica, it's been a real pleasure to have you on interviewing the experts. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It's great talking to you as always.